All right, good afternoon, everyone. Well, wait a minute. What time of day? Well, this publishes in the morning, so it'll be a good morning to everyone. and today we have a really great two-part series coming up, and we're going to talk about are QBRs dead? And we all three here think they are. So what I have here on here is Joe Rojas and Jeff Loehr, and they're from a fantastic company I met at a recent conference where we talked through kind of the MBA program for MSPs, getting that business-centric knowledge that you kind of miss as a technology person.
Yeah.
So, Joe, I want you to Jeff or Joe, whoever wants to take it. Tell me what it is you guys do, who you are, and how you help MSPs before we dig into our QBRs Dead.
I'll let Jeff go first.
All right, fine. Well, we are, like you say, we're that MBA program for IT managed services companies, right? And the challenge is really that as technical professionals, as people, we understand IT, but then you get stuck in doing all of the technical work, all of the IT work. And you cannot scale that. The only way you can grow is by doing more work. And so we take that technical knowledge that people have and provide you with the tools and the structure and the templates and the training to create a business that you can scale out of it, where you don't end up having to do all of the work. So it's allowing you to really leverage those technical skills to grow a business. And the short answer, again, it's the MBA for technical people, for technical businesses.
Yeah, and anybody who's been listening to this podcast for a while knows that immediately when I found their booth, I found best friends, right? There's such alignment here. You know, we started off as this coaching program, and then we bought Managed Services Platform as a tool to kind of, hey, how do you talk to your customers? And then as for those of you who remember, we walked away from our coaching. You know, we still have it. It's an integrated part of our product, but there's so much that needs to be done there. It's like, how do you teach people about technology? You can't just teach them about how to open a PCAP or how to look at Windows. You actually have to teach them a lot of mechanics behind the technology, what an OSI stack is, how things fit together. And there's a lot to go on. And business is just as complicated, if not more complicated, because you're dealing with people, you're dealing with processes, you're dealing with multiple styles and business suites. And how do you support all that?
Yeah. So, the biggest problem, like you say, is the people, because it's at least with technology, it's predictable. You put something in, it's going to come out. And if it's not coming out, it's broken. But people, they're all over the place, man. We all have different ways of doing things. That's always the biggest challenge.
And so that's where, when we were talking about this, like, are QBRs dead? It's a topic we have talked about in the past at Humanize IT. But I think Joe and Jeff really kind of hit it on the head on why. Why is this the case? And so does one of you want to tell me what it is about QBRs with MSPs that's absolutely broken?
Well, the thing that's absolutely broken is that the QBR, as it stands today, is speeds and feeds. It's all the problems that are happening with the technology, and you're talking about the technology, and you start talking to your client, and then all of a sudden their eyes start rolling back into the back of their head. And about 5 minutes in, they start doing this, right? And that's why QBRs are dead, because they're not listening to you. They can't hear what you're saying because it doesn't relate to them in the problems that they're facing in running and delivering their services to their clients. And so that's what's dead about it, is that the reason why they hired you as an MSP is because they don't care about technology.
Yeah.
They want it.
And they're caring less about technology. Like, there used to be a time when businesses would say, well, I need tech to stay ahead. I need to implement email. What is email? I need email, and then you had to decide between a token ring network or an Ethernet network, and then there was
way
like
back,
that,
brother.
and you had to configure your PCI cards. You put them in and have to go through this long process, and a big deal was now you could script all of that, right? And I know I need this, but I don't know what it is anymore. But that's dead, right? Now you go turn on your computer. It's like, hey, what Wi-Fi do you want? That one. And it's like, okay, you're up and running. And sure, there are lots of things in the background that a technical person can say, wow, that's not quite right. But it's working. And so the interest in technology, the understanding of the connection between, this is technology and this is how it's going to impact my business is completely broken. So if you're in talking about what Joe calls speeds and feeds and talking about what the tech is, they cannot and will not relate that back to what that means in a business sense and what that means to them in terms of money, growth, everything else that they want from their business. They can't do it. They won't do it, and they're not interested in doing it.
Yeah, and I talk to people a lot on MSPs, and it's interesting how many of them will say, I know what my client needs. They just need to listen to me. And that's immediately a key term. Like, this person has an ego the size of a planet, because I remember thinking that way when I was young tech. You know, meetings are worthless. It's waste my time. Just shut up and let me do my job. And I remember growing as an engineer and thinking, there is so much more to this organization than the technology. And a lot of us remember back around the 2000s, I tell this story a lot. It used to be that people came out to us as I was a teenager at the time, right? Or I was a young 20s. And they're like, how do I get one of those web things, the www things, so I can put inventory out there? Because the car dealership down the street is making bank because people are able to go and shop on their site, and then they come in and ask about specific cars. And I said, well, it's a pretty simple thing to do. We just need to get a web developer. He's like, what's that? And we were solving a business problem, how to get inventory in front of clients.
Yeah.
Right.
It wasn't about the technology. It was about the problem that was facing the company, and they wanted a clever solution. And there are a billion clever solutions out there right now. And you know some of them as a technology provider, but you're too busy focused on firewalls and PC warranties and switches and Meraki. And that's great. It's important to you. Those are all the things that you work on. But how are those supporting the business?
Yeah.
And so the question to you is why aren't MSPs focused on business solutions in QBRs? Why are they focusing so much on technology?
I mean, they're focusing on what they know. I mean, it's natural. It's what everybody does. I focus on the thing that I know. You know, it's not just IT people. It's not just technical people. If you talk to engineers, they're going to talk the same way. You go talk to a doctor. You know, doctor knows what you need, but we call it bedside manner. You know, can he explain it or she explain it in a way that you actually understand, and you say, oh yeah, I do actually, you know, want my heart to keep beating. You know, and so we talk about the things that we know. And then we're all subject to this curse of knowledge. Because we know it, we think they know it. Because I make the connection, I think you make the connection. But they don't. So there's just this expectation that they understand what's going on in my world. And this is universal. Like I said, it's not just technical people. It's absolutely universal. And the entrepreneurial challenge is to take that thing that you do and turn it into the language and concerns and needs of a target market.
Yeah. And for me, it's a little different, right? It's everything Jeff said, and the MSP doesn't know what their role is in the organization. They just don't know what their role is. They think that their role is to be an engineer. What they don't understand is that technology for a business is like the central nervous system of a body. But they need to understand what the functions of that body are. And they don't know what the functions of the body are. They just understand the central nervous system without understanding the functions of the body. And so they're focused on their eyes on the wrong thing. Their eye is on, is this person safe? And does all this stuff work?
Yep.
Their eye should be on, what is it that their intended outcomes are? And how does the central nervous system enable those outcomes? Yep. What is your business? and how to, and that's we're also big proponents of niching. And one of the reasons why we're such big proponents of niching is because learning solutions across 25, 30 different verticals is very hard, especially if you're going to learn something that's really going to be able to help that business. You really have to get in there and understand how the business works, what are the outcomes. And the more you do that, the more repetitive you can get about that, the better you will be as an advisor, because who you are is an advisor to that client on how to use technology to grow their business. And if you forget that that's your role, then it's broken.
Yeah.
It's
So
broken.
let's talk about that a little bit. What do you mean by niching? What does an MSP need to know? Like, what do you mean? Are you talking about bespoke here? Are you talking about, there's a bunch of different terms for what I think you're going for here. What is niching your MSP?
Do you want to go, Jeff, or you want me to go?
No, go ahead.
Well, I look at my first one, right? So I've owned 3 MSPs. I started one and I sold it. And so in my first one, I don't know if you guys have ever felt this way, but it felt like I was working like 120 hours a week and I wasn't getting the clients to do what I needed them to do. And I knew everything and they didn't just listen to me. And I had employees that were making more money than I was so that I could keep the business open. Yep. And it was really hard for a few years, right? That was back in 1999, right? When I started the first one. And it took me about till 2003 to get my head out of my butt and realize that I was focused on the wrong thing. And I niched to personal injury attorneys, right? And when I say niche, I mean I only work with personal injury attorneys in Brooklyn, New York, from Clinton Street to Court Street.
It just so happens that there are 1 million personal injury attorneys in that block.
In that block, right? So I had 11 in one building. I had 7 in another building, right? It was like, that's the way it was, right? And I love 26 Court. That's a great building. And when I niched, the problem that I solved for those personal injury lawyers in New York, in Brooklyn, was that there was a software back then called Saga that only was a New York specific software, didn't work anywhere else in the country, that grabbed all the case docket information and all that stuff. And you could write your affidavits and you could write all your letters and all your stuff and pull information directly from the court system right into Word that was written in Clipper.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And nobody could ever get it to work. And I figured out how to get it to work, and I was charging bank. I was charging more than, at least 75% more than all my other competitors. But one attorney in a listserv gave me 11 or 12 referrals in the first year. Because as soon as he got it, he was the biggest complainer on that listserv, for those of you who remember listservs. Right? He was the biggest complainer that didn't work. And then when it worked, he was the biggest champion of us, right? Saying, hey, if you're having this problem, these guys can help you. So when I say niche, you have to find a group of people that have a specific problem. You have to solve that specific problem. And then you spread the word to the rest of the group. Like, hey, I have solved this problem and I can help you.
Yeah, we talked about that in a podcast a couple of weeks ago, where Skip and I were talking about it was Mike Giovanni and I were talking about it. If your clients aren't referring you, you're probably doing something wrong. They should be like, Mike helped me solve this problem and it has been great. You should work with them. Most of these small businesses you are working with, they're close-knit group. They go out and they have their coffee groups together. They have their drinking after hours, their Friday afternoon committees, and all these networking groups that they're in. They should be proud to have you as the support that's helping them grow their business. And in a QBR, when you're sitting there and talking at them about how they need to buy this new 48200E firewall, when you're sitting there telling them that they need to get on a managed PC platform, or they need to get this EDR in place, this antivirus in place, you're not helping their business grow. You're just another salesperson sitting there telling them what they need to buy when they've got a strapped budget. But if you're walking in there and saying, hey, I can help you solve this problem at concerts and help you sell more hot dogs because I can get you on this new Rhythms box that allows you to bypass the wireless at this event, and so you can sell faster than anybody else because your credit card system works.
Yeah.
Now they're going to tell their fellow vendors, hey, remember how I was selling left and right at that last concert? I got a little bit overwhelmed. You need to be using this here. This guy will set this up for you, and they'll come in and solve that problem. Suddenly, you've got 60 vendors knocking down your door because they know they'll make more money with you than with a standard MSP selling them PCs because you're listening.
And there's another beautiful thing that happens there. MSPs complain a lot about competition. There is, for the record, there is no competition in the MSP space. The reason that they feel competition is because they're all going after infrastructure work against other people going after infrastructure work in a situation where nobody actually wants to buy infrastructure work, and it sucks. But when you can go in and say, hey, I can help you sell more hot dogs. I'm trying to build on your example here, but I can help you sell more hot dogs, right? Then they're going to say like, oh, how many more hot dogs? And how much is it going to cost for me to sell more hot dogs? And all of a sudden, you can charge a much higher price because now it's about talking about the delivery on the hot dog delivery, right? And how you can actually get them more revenue. You can charge more of that value that you're providing. You're no longer competing with anybody because nobody else is talking about the hot dogs. Everybody else is talking about EDRs and firewalls and whatnot. And then because you get good at this, your price, your cost decreases as well because you end up developing your SOPs, your way of working. You become experts at this. Like Joe was experts at Saga. He knew it backwards and forwards. Any problem that came out, anybody else in the world is going to spend hours, days figuring it out. Joe does it in 5 minutes. You know?
And then the beauty of that narrow vertical to yes and that is the fact that when you find a solution for that one attorney or that one hot dog vendor, and you've got 17 others sitting there, guess what? That solution will most likely work for all 17. So you didn't just sell once. You just sold 17 times in one pitch.
Yeah.
Right. And that is why this niche or narrow vertical or bespoke or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
These are why these small shops have insane margins.
Right.
Because they're pitching realistic solutions to a group rather than just to one client at a time.
Yeah. I was talking to a sales guy that worked for a 300-person MSP, and they were crushing it. They were killing it. And he went up against this tiny little boutique MSP competing for a giant not-for-profit, and they're competing for this giant not-for-profit. And they're coming in, and this small MSP is coming in even higher price than him, right? And they're going at it. And the CEO of the company, of the not-for-profit, comes to him and says, hey, look, I know it's been a long sales process. We decided to go with the other guys. And he's like, but they're like 12 techs. We have like 300 techs. We have all the best technology. We have all the best systems. And he said, yeah, and they have a grant writer that's going to help us write a grant because they only work with not-for-profits, and it's going to cover a third of our contract costs.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was like,
that's because they were a niche, right?
Right.
Like, it's because they knew their client. Like, if you want to work with nonprofits and you're complaining about how the budgets are tight, it's because exactly what Joe just said. You don't have a grant writer. Why don't you have a grant writer? Because why would you need one? Tech doesn't need a grant. Are you kidding me? If you're working with nonprofits, these grant writers are gold. There's millions of dollars out there for grabs if you have somebody who can identify the grant and then speak the language and make the case.
There's even money out there specifically for technology, for cybersecurity.
Yep.
That you have a grant writer, you can go get it for these people, and then it's all yours, right?
Okay, look, I will write this grant for you. It'll cost you nothing. We'll come in and do these things for you.
Right.
All you have to do is say yes. And so that's just one niche, right? This is just one area.
Yeah.
There are a million of these areas throughout the world, and you can look at your own platform and say, who are we really vibing with? Who do we really know well?
Yeah.
And
a lot of people ask us, well, how do I choose a niche? How do I know who my target customer is? And that's how you do it, right? Who am I vibing with? Who do I know? Who do I like?
And we'll cover that in this next episode where we talk about, like, hey, if QBRs aren't worth it, if we are talking about technologies, QBRs, and are not worth it, what should we be talking about? And so how do you get from this generalized MSP that is basically a Best Buy reselling technology to an MSP that understands your clients, is going to have higher margins, and is going to have an overall better quality of life as a technician? How do you do that with simple, good conversations? And that's going to be on the next episode where we talk about proper strategic business reviews versus quarterly business reviews. Thank you, Joe and Jeff, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Awesome.
See you then.
Talk.